and listen closely. Everything is curable. We're in a new era, remembering what the earth has been whispering, shifting from conventional medicines, quick fixes, beyond prescriptions. This is our journey back to the intelligence of the body. Welcome to Beyond the White Coat. Welcome to another episode of Beyond the White Coat, where we return to the Earth's natural medicines. Here we restore health through nature's original blueprints. I'm Gaya Stepanian, your host. This show is for truth seekers, for those who want to understand the human body beyond what we've been told through conventional medicine, and to learn about our body's extraordinary ability to heal. Today, we're going to talk about one of my favorite subjects, about a little-known medicine that's more of an earth and quantum type of medicine that I came across about 15 years ago. And joining me in a little while is Raul Prieto from Miami, a biomagnetic practitioner and a spiritual coach, where he fuses spirituality with biomagnetism to help people along their path and make incredible transformations. But before we get started with Raul, I'd like to give you a little bit of history about what biomagnetism is and how it started. You see, biomagnetism is a form of using therapeutic level magnets to restore our body's health, physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritual health. Believe it or not, magnets can help us evolve, but they can also help us heal from anything, from A through Z. And if I haven't been able to witness this over the last 15 years, then I definitely wouldn't exaggerate. But I have. I've been witness to so many incredible transformations. But what is biomagnetism? You see, biomagnetism speaks to our body's biological magnetism. We are magnetic beings. We have electric particles. Some of the smallest particles in the human body, the proton, the neutron, and the electron that make up everything that we are electric charges, positive, neutral, and negative. You have the neutron that's a neutral charge. You have protons that are positive charges and electrons that are negative charges. I know I'm kind of taking you back through memory lane in school, but the truth of the matter is, I guess when I was studying that, I didn't really grasp the value and importance of what that means. But now that I get to help people restore their health by applying magnets, it's like, yeah, it's simple science, really. If we can restore our cells by applying magnets back to their normal healthy state, then our body does the wonderful work of healing itself in the absence of the chemicals and the germs that we've been exposed to or created in our body. And not only that, when we restore the state, the natural state of our cells, we can flush out toxic emotions, sadness, anger, fear, the lack of peace of mind, anxiety, resentments, frustrations, grief, loss, guilt. All these emotions that really are the root of what creates and attracts injuries and diseases or symptoms. So many conditions go undetected or undiagnosed. And I can't tell you how many people I've seen over the years that come to me and say, thank God somebody figured out the root cause. Because it didn't matter how many tests they did through conventional medicine. Either they were diagnosed with something that they had Band-Aids for and now had to manage and live with for the rest of their life, or so they thought. Or nobody could figure out what was wrong with them or what was going on with them. And so biomagnetism uses a form of kinesiology that connects with our cellular wisdom, because every memory, all the information is inside of us, ready for the taking. We just don't know how to communicate in general with our body, with our cells, with our intuition. And when we learn a form of kinesiology that connects with that intuition, then we can discover so much, really endless pieces of information in terms of what's going on with this and what we need to do in order to heal. That same information can guide us in the application of magnets. The magnets, because they emit this magnetism, it restores our cellular state back to normal. Now, where did biomagnetism come from? Well, the truth is that magnets have been used in recorded history for over 5,000 years in every continent on this planet. Figures like Cleopatra, she was a scientist. She spoke many languages. She was a physicist, a chemist, a biologist. She wrote, I don't know how many books. She was very bright. And she used magnets. Most women of that era used magnets. And they would use them for headaches or for inflammation or for pain, for any sort of condition, but also to prevent aging or slow down aging, to open up their intuition, for meditation, for connection. And like her, many others throughout the ages have used magnets for healing. So fast forward, we come to like the mid 1900s, and we have Dr. Albert Roy Davis, this phenomenon of a scientist. He had an institute at the University of Florida. He taught Reiki back in the day. And he coined the term biomagnetism, speaking about our biological magnetism. And he attracted some of the most brilliant minds across the world to study with him. And one of his students became the chief medical director of NASA in the 80s, Dr. Richard Broingmeyer. And Broingmeyer was in charge of making sure the astronauts were in perfect health before they left to space. But what he found was that when these astronauts left the Earth's magnetic field, their cells destabilized and they came back with a variety of different conditions, from osteoporosis to immune disorders to digestive issues to anxiety, depression, and the gamut. And they all came back with one shorter leg. So now science uses and applies Schumann resonance in space for these astronauts so that they don't destabilize and they don't have the health issues that these earlier astronauts experienced. But Broingmeyer was able to get his astronauts back to full health through the application of magnets. And so he wrote papers and he wrote books and he began to present throughout the world. And he was also attracting some of the brightest minds, scientists throughout the world. And we suspect he was told to stop. He didn't. And within 2 years, he died. But before he died, he shared his research notes with the person that became my first instructor, Dr. Isaac Gois Duran, a head of obstetrics at the largest hospital in Mexico City. And Dr. Gois carried the baton for those before him. And he spoke Spanish, so he focused a lot of his teaching throughout Latin America and in Spain, mostly in Spanish-speaking parts of the world. So now it's our job for those of us to continue carrying the baton. Dr. Gois is no longer with us. And some of his contemporaries that also trained with Dr. Broingmeyer have also passed on. So a new generation of biomagnetists has emerged. And we are looking at this particular form of medicine from a more holistic space and how it can really transform every aspect of our life. And so now that you have a little bit of insight as to biomagnetism, we're going to turn to Raul Prieto so he can share with us some of his experiences with this amazing work. And I'm excited about this conversation. love to hear from Raul on his journey, his introduction. So how did you learn about biomagnetism? Tell us that story.
Okay, well, Gaya, can you believe it's been 10 years? I've been with you in this journey for just over 10 years now when I first discovered biomagnetic therapies. And so the story goes like this. I had a friend of mine who was suffering from not be able to smell. She lost all her sense of smell. And this goes way back before COVID, before it was the thing. So she absolutely couldn't smell anything. She's had a baby. She didn't know when to change the diaper because she couldn't smell when had to change the diapers. If her kitchen was caught on fire, she couldn't smell the smoke. So it was like she was having a very difficult time. So she was kept going to doctors who specialized in the nose, ears, and throat, because it's a specialty. And she was given all this medication, and she was giving all these other things, and nothing happened for years and years and years. And then one day, she gives me a call, and she says, "Raul, you're not going to believe it, but I've been smelling for 3 days." And I was like, "What do you mean been smelling for 3 days?" "Yes, for 3 days." It's like, "What did you do?" And she kind of like got quiet on me. It's like, "Well, I did these therapies, but it's kind of like not your normal, going to a doctor. It was these magnets." I go, "Magnets? Yeah." But she's a really good friend of mine. And when she says something, I just like, okay, give me the number to this lady. I need to go see her. And that's how I met Gaya. So with that information on hand, I went to go see her. And sure enough, I went into the therapy, not really knowing anything about it, and she just proceeded to put magnets on me. And I walked out, and I physically felt that there was a change within my system. And I couldn't understand what was going on because, I've always taken medication. I've always taken something. I need to ingest something for my body to get a reaction. But I did not ingest anything. I was simply just placed magnets on my body. So I did a second session and a third, and the more session I was going through, the more changes my body was going through. My body was being cleansed. There was bacteria that was being cleansed. There were parasites that was being cleansed. There was mold, right? And viruses. And as they were being eliminated through this process, my body was being rejuvenated. And this energy came back. And I did not understand how. I couldn't understand. My brain, my pattern, the way of thinking didn't compute this. So I kept asking questions.
Yes, you did. They were good questions too.
Yeah, so when these things were occurring, my curiosity really kicked in because I'm a type of person that I need to know. I need to know what's going on. Why is my body getting a reaction when I'm not ingesting anything, right? It was foreign to think that way. And your explanation of how magnets work, how it works in down to a cellular level, right? So with the questions I was asking you, you kept like giving me better and better answers. But it all didn't like seep in for another like year, really. It took me like a year to really like totally understand what was going on because the human mind is funny, right? Because even though something worked and then you feel good, you're not sick anymore. But the next time you get sick, you tell yourself, well, that didn't work. Let me go back and take medicine again. Let me go back to the doctor again. And then that didn't work. And then you're like, yeah, maybe I should call Gaya one more time. So I called her up. Hey, I got this condition. It's like, yeah, come on over. Let's see what we can do. It worked. So this is like the second time. It was like, oh, okay, there's something to this. But I was pretty stubborn. I got sick again. And like 2 months into my sickness, I'm thinking, you know what, maybe I should call Gaya again. And sure enough, this time I called her because I had torn my rotator cuff and I had to get surgery. And I didn't want to get surgery. And I was just like, all these things, it was expensive. So I called her up. It's like, hey, I got this, you know, this tear on my rotator cuff. Do you think the bandage could work? You know, and she always says, yes, it can. My son does swimming. He's an athlete, and I've worked on him before. I go, all right, I'm on my way. And sure enough, she did magnetic work on me. It healed. I did have to do some stretching, you know, to get because after it heals, you got to stretch the ligaments. No surgery. It was actually one session. And that's when I said, okay, enough of this guessing stuff. This stuff is for real.
I know the feeling because, the very first time that I had a biomagnetic session, I was just, willing to give it a try. I didn't know if it was going to work. I had some information from family members on how it had worked for them. But I also knew that, taking steroid shots for pain wasn't going to cure the condition. It was a Band-Aid. And I didn't believe in Band-Aids. I didn't want Band-Aids. And I had, as you know, managed a department at hospital for 10 years. So I understood the business of medicine. And I also understood the aspects of medicine that work and that are vital. And then the other aspects of medicine that just have us chasing our tail, right? And I didn't care to chase my tail in using those tactics. So I was kind of stuck with this really bad tendonitis. My elbow hurt really bad. I couldn't sleep at night. I couldn't carry half a gallon of milk. And so I was in constant pain for a good year and a half. And so when my sister told me that her arthritis in her hands had been resolved with 3 sessions of biomagnetism, I said, well, let me see if I can find somebody, not too far from me that does this. And I did. And sure enough, after the second session, the tendonitis in my elbow was 100% gone.
Yeah.
And then 3 months later, I noticed my lactose intolerance was gone. And that was a surprise because I didn't get information from my practitioner. He didn't explain things to me.
Mm-hmm.
Just kind of put the magnets on, left them on there for a little bit, kind of fiddle with my feet to do some muscle testing. And so I didn't know about muscle testing. I didn't know how magnets worked. I really had zero information. And all I knew was that 3 months later, I could have milk again. I could have cheese. I could have sour cream and with no bloating or discomfort or distension. And so I realized that whatever he had done wasn't just symptom specific. He had done something with that application that changed my systems. And that's what biomagnetism does. It cleans your systems and it regenerates them so that we get a new lease on life, basically.
Yeah.
That's basically what we get. We rejuvenate internally and externally.
It's we all know the body heals because as kids, we've all cut ourselves. So we get a cut and we bleed and we see it there. And then all of a sudden we look down 2 days later, we have a scab. And then a couple of days later, the scab falls off. And then 3 weeks later, you don't even see anything, that the skin covered it perfectly. So we know that the body heals all by itself because that cut was healed.
Exactly.
Right? So it's not foreign to us. We know the body heals. But somehow, one way through, I guess, just through the medical field, we don't think we can heal internally the same way we do externally, right? So then we start relying on other modalities like medications and whatnot. And some medications help, and some medications are only there to just heal the symptoms, but not the cause.
Well, I would say masked symptoms.
Masked symptoms.
Masked symptoms because they don't necessarily heal. Like if you take medication for diabetes, it doesn't heal it.
Correct.
It masks symptoms. If you take medication for blood pressure, it doesn't heal the blood pressure. It masks your blood pressure symptoms. And so we're not without side effects and other repercussions. I would say that.
Correct. So then we lost the notion that that internally we can heal. And through biomagnetics, it's absolutely 100% to be able to heal internally with magnets.
So let me ask you a question, because we have a few more minutes for the show. When did you decide you wanted to practice biomagnetism?
Well, with my curiosity and wanting to learn more, I kept asking questions and I kept asking questions. And this isn't pseudoscience, right? For the ones who have no idea, it sounds a little spooky, right? Magnets is going to heal me, right? So it's hard for the brain to capture that. But once you start digging in to the science behind it, understanding how energy works, understanding the negative poles and the positive poles, understanding electromagnetism, understanding how pH balance works, understanding the true science behind what these doctors were talking about, it opens up your eyes, it opens up your brain, it opens up your capacity. It's like, oh, it feels and looks like miracles, but there's a science behind how these miracles are working.
Yeah, I would say that's a perfect explanation, because it really does feel like I get to see miracles in action all the time,
Yes.
And I don't stop. I think we were talking about this before. I'm never not impressed or fascinated by the results that I see with people, right? I'm always in awe of the fact that our body has this extraordinary capacity to heal. And so, I'm so grateful that you're here.
It's
right?
fascinating. You're right. I mean, I've been doing this for 10 years, and every single time, just last week, I was able to help somebody, and they call me up and say, "Hey, so and so, my symptoms are gone. This and that." I'm like, "Really? Yeah, that's fantastic!" And I'm just as excited like the very first time it happened to me, because it's just like mind blowing. It's so cool.
So, how could people reach you if they wanted to reach you for a consultation? You're also a life coach.
I am.
So, how could people reach Raul?
Well, I have a website that you could go to. It's iamtruth.com. I also have an Instagram link to that. So it's iamistruth.com.
I absolutely love that. iamtruth.com.
Yes.
Because at the end of the day, this is what this is about. It's about finding the truth. And if you're a truth seeker, stay tuned with Beyond the White Coat for our next episode, airing on Mondays. We'll see you again. Thank you so much for joining us. Again, I'm Gaya Stepanian, your host, and this is Raul Pr.
Thank you.
If this is your very first time learning about biomagnetism and you would like to learn more, then I encourage you to pick up a copy of my book, Beyond the White Coat, A Return to Earth's Medicine, available on Amazon. In it, you will find far more details about this practice, how you can use magnets at home to do some self-healing, to help your pets, to understand the root causes of so many conditions and symptoms, to really understand some of the factors that are contributing to the deterioration of health in humanity, and how we can work with nature, with herbs and plants and food, to help ourselves heal. And if you find that you are fascinated by this type of medicine and would like to learn more about it, I encourage you to visit my website, themagnetlady.net. I have a free webinar, 3 Secrets to Your Healing Power, and other trainings, including a biomagnetism certification, so that you can, if you're so called, to learn this incredible medicine, to help yourself, to help your pets, to help your family, your loved ones, and perhaps, like me, leave your career and dedicate yourself to a beautiful mission and life purpose. I hope that we've left you with hope, with some valuable new information. And if this is something that you would like to explore for yourself in terms of treatment, then please reach out to Raul or myself. We are more than happy to be able to help you on the road to recovery.